those fonts about 8 years ago. It took about a couple of years to get it all developed and distributed. They actually have seen an increase in business, where people, but also an emotional kind of reconnection with their customers, where people, particularly elderly people, went in and said, whoa, your stuff actually looks really nice now. If I get a brochure publication from it, I can read it. The type looks really good. I can read it. It's accessible. Therefore, I want to do business with you. Very important. Type makes money. And we did a few years ago. We did the fonts for the BT phone book directory. And and this is a clear money question. Just by changing the type, even without changing the layout, we managed to, on average, save 10 lines per page. You multiply that over 300 pages, over 25 million books printed a year. That's a fuckload of money. Absolutely. They had 2 print runs and saved the development costs for the fonts. From now on, it's all profit. McDonald's, those who've eaten McDonald's, if you look at the packaging, new font as part of the new McDonald's, the nice new green McDonald's. All recycled packaging, etc. So the type needed to reflect the packaging and the kind of like handmade, the crafted expression, I suspect. And so it was decided, obviously, to have an ultra condensed, it had kind of like this resemblance of letterpress type. So it's like ultra condensed, so you can get a lot of words on the packaging, but also slightly distressed, say to give this handmade impression. And if you look at the characters, for example, here the C or the M's, they actually have different distressings. So each character has an alternative design with a different distressing, and using OpenType features in the font. And if you use it in InDesign, you get automatic replacement. Say, for example, you have 2 C's together, you don't have the same 2 C's. Automatically it replaces the second one with the alternative. So that works quite well. We did that in Latin, Greek, and Cyrillic, and Arabic as well. And again, because Arabic doesn't really know ultra-condensed typefaces, we had the problem with the dots. Like here we have the sheen, where you have the dots in the triangle, because you have enough space on the character to do that. Here we have the the, and you don't. We place them vertically in order to fit them in. Now, in the text environment, you couldn't do this. This would not be considered legible. But because this is a display font, doesn't matter. You only read 1 or 2 words. You don't have to read more when you see it large. So therefore legibility isn't an issue. You can do creative problem solving with your type. Did that earlier this year for the Orange T Mobile merger. It was a nice job because most of the projects we work on last 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Or like the Ubuntu project over a year. We're working currently with Nokia, which is going to be launched, I believe, at the end of March. That's going to be an 18-month project together, what with all the various scripts. This one, we have 30 days from concept stage to finish. That was quite refreshing. Actually get a font out in 30 days and then be rid of it, and be able to do the next thing. I wouldn't want to work at that pace every single day, I can tell you that. I'm far too lazy for that. But now it's quite good to do something like that. And this is really for us, because we work mostly in a corporate environment, the same way you have for all of the timescales. This was done for an advertising environment, branding advertising environment, where time was of the essence. Recent project as well for Swiss Tele. They have an update of the identity, so together with the design agency, we worked in developing the logo and then created the typeface. Currently, or up until recently, they've been using Helvetica for everything, very Swiss, of course. And but we felt, in my opinion, Helvetica is a bit staid anyway. It's time to get rid of it. Anyway, anyone should get rid of Helvetica, by the way. But we designed the font. Again, based on functionality, and the type, as you can see, is slightly more condensed, again, in order to facilitate higher letter count on the TV when they have like their text entries on the telly. Again, very functional, has to be highly legible for that environment, as well as print. This is the font, again. And you can see the square, the design is fairly square as well, and this helps also, particularly with the narrowness and the highness, this helps to facilitate the legibility on the screen. It's kind of like squareness is a little bit fashionable at the moment as well. You find a lot of Scandinavian fonts, the Danish and the Norwegians, they like the stuff squarish as well, and have always done so. That's the font we did for Burberry. Some years ago we did the Latin, and now they added the Cyrillic to it. And this was actually quite, this type of font is really challenging to do. For one, like particularly in Cyrillic, for one, for some, how do you design this character? And this is quite a complex one, but how do you treat those top parts? So it's a design challenge, but spacing. Spacing of a modern style or a serif font is so difficult, particularly these moderns, because you have such high contrast and relatively long serifs. You create massive space in between two characters. And how do you then set a round against a square character? It's hugely tricky, hugely difficult and time-consuming to do. Now, spacing is another issue. Lots of designers design nice 10-point text, and then they actually minus track the copy. Minus tracking is a disease which needs to be eradicated. It's a disease, it's not a good idea, it's not clever, it makes you look stupid and ignorant. Because the tighter you make the type, the darker it is on the page, the more work you have to do, go and fix individual problems. Usually a good quality typeface, most fonts are designed for text, for body copy environments, they are spaced for that environment. Don't mess about with it, it is good, it reads well. Also tighter copy actually doesn't read as well as more loosely set copy. On the contrary, I think you need to open it up a bit. The lighter the copy, the less problems you have with spacing issues, with kerning issues, and it actually reads really well. It has a light feel, an open feel, and it can breathe. Tight copy is a disease. Now, obviously, in a display environment, you want to minus track it, you want to get it tighter for spacing reasons, but you haven't got a legibility issue at large sizes. Body copy, leave it alone. Leave it alone. There's no need. And if you need to have more copy, or if you have, say, the font runs too long, for your pages that you have available, choose a different font that actually fits, but don't minus track, please. So spacing is very, very important. Very important in tab design. Yes, something which actually shouldn't be seen, probably, we're doing for Puma, or have done for Puma. It's going to be on the new football kits for next year. Italians will have it, and it's for the African Nations Cup. And it's my fault that the English didn't get the World Cup. Qatar got it because of this. The project we did for Metrolink up in Manchester for transport, 3 fonts we did, 2 sans serif, a regular and a bold and a serif, and that's now used quite widely in pretty much all the transport systems throughout Manchester, on the screen, on signage, ticketing machines, everywhere. Yes, a couple quality issues. This is not an apostrophe. In geographical terms, hang on, let me get this right now. In geographical terms, it is it minutes or seconds? I never remember. Either one of them. The double stroke, no, the double strokes is the seconds, the single stroke is the minutes. Foot and inches as well. That's what this is used for. Yeah. This is not an apostrophe. The apostrophe is the curly one. Yeah. Same with the quotes. These are not quotes. The quotes are the curly ones, or the ones at an angle, whichever way you want it. But this is not it. The BBC, a couple of years ago, they had a program, The Pedants. revolution or something, it was called. It was all about the use of the apostrophe in a grammatical sense. Yeah? And throughout, they use this. If you want to be pedantic, be proper pedantic. I can also, I have an issue. I have an issue with proper spelling. Sometimes people send me their CVs. They want a work experience or something, and they write 10 lines, no separation into paragraphs. They write. I have to read it. Okay, I haven't got a clue what you want. I read it again. About 10 spelling mistakes. Have you never ever heard of a spell checker? And it does my head in. It really does my head in. This is about quality. This is about micro-typography. But language comes in as well. When you spell a word, spell it correctly. There is a reason. I haven't got a problem with language moving on and changing, certain words changing their meaning. It's not, but spell it correctly. Placing the apostrophe correctly or incorrectly changes the meaning of the sentence. Anyway, it's not only the apostrophe I have a gripe with. The use of the ampersand. Have I got it in here? The use of the ampersand. You do not use it to replace the word "and" in running copy. The ampersand is only used to link two words together. For example, bangers and mash, fish and chips. That's how you use the ampersand, or two names. Never in running copy. It looks stupid, and it is stupid. Dashes. There's 3 dashes. The hyphen, the n dash, and the n dash. They have different functions. The hyphen, as it says, separates words, splits words, or links them together at the end. It is never used as an insert or as a dash for a sentence insertion, or as a dash to indicate a distance. Never. The hyphen separates words. Simple. The n dash is used like you would use, say, a comma, as an insertion where you have one thought, one sentence, packaged into another sentence. So you would have sentence, 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 word space, n dash, word space, sentence, 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 word space, n dash, word space, sentence. That's how you use the n dash, for nothing else. The m dash is used to indicate distances. London to Brighton, no word spaces. That's how you use the m dash. Nothing else. So don't come about and do hyphens for distances and all that sort of stuff. All these things are in the font, so there's no excuses not to use them. The other thing is ligatures. Ligatures. F and I. You see some really atrocious uses of F and I. There was one, Fuller's Beer, they had one. Serif type, I think Baskerville or something like that. The F and the I next to it, not use the ligature. And it looks horrendous. It creates a huge space. It looks horrible. Use the FI ligature. Use the FL ligature. FF, FFI, FFL, etc. Nowadays they're all in the fonts. No excuse not to use them.
So what is a ligature?
A ligature is a combination of 2 characters.
So joined?
Sometimes joined, yes. Sometimes they look like separate characters, but they are like tucked together. Let's see if I put something in here. This one. I mean,
I'll look it up.
I mean, here, for example, you would have a sketch or something like this. I mean, this is not a traditional ligature here.
Like A and E or O and E?
Well, those are not ligatures, those are diphthongs. They're actually real characters. But no, F and I is probably the most common. Or sometimes you may have seen, like in more traditional books, older books, where you have an ST ligature, where you have the S connected to the T with a swirl. Yeah. And traditionally, the ligatures, they were actually done, for mechanical purposes, mechanical aesthetic purposes, particularly in serif fonts. Obviously, in hot metal type, you have a physical body where the character sits on. And if you have typeface, let's say, like Garamond, the F, the upper part of the F, tends to swoop out quite far. So you create a fairly wide body for the F. So you set the I next to it. you create a massive white space between those two characters. So they were actually designing a ligature where the F and the I sit on the same body, coming closer together, modulating the F top part, and then the bone, the drop serif of the F bone, sort of like forms the I dot, or like it will connect into the L as well. Same with CH, CK, and so on. They come out more of the black letter type, where again you have too much white space between the two characters, so you need to bring them together. In display type, particularly again, coming back to hot metal, you would quite often undercut the letter. So you would actually cut out some of the body and just have like the dot. Yeah? And what, and if you said, say, for example, the F next to an A, you would then have that piece of metal resting on the body of the A, and that would be perfectly fine. But if you then imagine you sit an I next to it, you start squashing the F dot up, and it would damage the character and actually create a really ugly mess on print. So again, you have a physical reason for creating that ligature.
So one other question, sorry.
Yeah.
You're saying the hyphen, M dash and M dash. I understand how they were used differently. They look differently as well.
They have different lengths. They have different lengths.
Okay.
Yeah. The hyphen tends to be the shortest of all of them. The M dash, as the name indicates, is the longest of them. It's basically the width of an M square. Now the M square again goes back to hot metal type, where you have the M square is the basic unit, which is basically the height of the body squared.
Okay.
Yeah. And the M dash has exactly that width. The N is half a body.
And
it's
M is
half
for distances.
half of the, yeah, N and M are distances. They indicate the width.
No, I mean M is used for distances between two places.
Yes.
N is used
The N is used as
as
a
like dashed onto another sentence, and
Yes.
a hyphen is the shortest
Yes.
one.
What about time?
What
about time? Like 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock?
That's a good one. Actually, I need to read up on that. That's.
In Yorkshire, you say 4 or 6, haven't you?
Yeah, I need to read up on that. Yeah. So anyway, ligatures. So use ligatures because they look better. And this is all about microtypography. It's like getting the kerning right, getting everything right. And you can have the most wonderful creative idea. If the execution is crap, your idea is crap. Simple. It's very, very simple. So anyway, that's my little rant. Again, a few images of the opening we had for the exhibition a couple of weeks ago. And cheers for listening. Any questions?
Is it on now, the exhibition?
Yeah.
At the 2nd of March, yeah.
Okay.
Who's been? Hey. Brilliant, thank you so much. That was incredible. Phil Jones. You guys all remember Phil?
Yeah.
Sent us a Podge brief last term. I asked Phil, who cut his teeth as a typographer way back before electricity. I asked him who would be the best person to come in and speak about type, and Phil's done good, hasn't he? Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. We've got questions.
Have you ever done anything in Chinese or Japanese, or is that out of the question due to the sheer number of...
We're starting to do it now. With this Nokia project, the Chinese and Japanese is going to become an issue. So we're starting to investigate it. But in the past and even now, it's just the sheer amount of cost that is involved to develop that, makes it unfeasible and uneconomic for anyone to do it. And timescales as well involved. Just to get a basic Chinese character set together as a design project, you're looking at about 6 months, at least. That's for one weight. And obviously additional weights are going to go a bit quicker because you've got the basics established.
You could charge more.
Yeah, you can, but no one's paying you. That's the problem. So we're investigating that now from a technical point of view as well. What can we do technically to make the whole design process much more efficient? One of the things we have now discovered is that Chinese, despite the vast number of characters that you have, is actually, most characters are actually composites of very simple elements. You have something, I think, like a dozen or so, or 2 dozen basic strokes, and then they get combined into about 120 root characters. And then those root characters are reassembled into the more complex shapes. So it's really an assembly process. I say we're trying to get our heads around that now. So that's technical execution, but then of course there's the design, what makes a good Chinese typeface. So we need to investigate that too. But once you understand Chinese, you also start understanding Japanese, because much of it in the kanji is based on the Chinese. So the hiragana and the katakana, which are the independent forms.
When or is the Ubuntu operating system available?
It is now.
It's just been installed on one of the PCs today.
Wicked.
Yeah, it's a really nice operating system. I mean, the user interface. There's still, things to be improved, but I think as an operating system, UI is really nice. I like it a lot.
What do you think of the Guardian's Egyptian?
Oh, I'm so jealous not having done that. So jealous. That is nice. That is a lovely piece of design. Although having said that, the very, very thin weights that you get in the G2 section, when they use for headlines, have a look at the diagonal cards. They're just a fraction heavier than the others. The reason is because when you design fonts, you work on a unit system, basic 1,000 units per m square. And once you start working on that thickness, where maybe a stroke is 10 units wide, an extra unit in terms of stroke width, makes a huge difference. It's 10% more weight, So the diagonals, on that unit system are very difficult, when you're so thin, are very, very difficult to control and to get absolutely spot on. So yeah, all the diagonals are just a fraction heavier. It bothers me, but I'm probably not the only person who can see it.
When someone commissions your work, do they ever reject stuff? I mean, because obviously it's so technical, some of the details. I mean, do people sometimes have opinions that you think, you don't know what you're talking about?
No. No. I mean, for most people, what I do is still black magic.
Yeah.
So
you give it to them and that's it, and
yeah.
all right.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the design process is a different thing. It's like when we start designing a font for corporate, for a client, whatever. We obviously get the brief, get an idea of what they're looking for in terms of expression, and then we present them 4 or 5 variants of the design concept. That's obviously not a full character set, that's a handful of characters. The core characters, usually a H cap O, lowercase n, lowercase o. You work with descending characters, an ascending character, something like an E and an A to give you the terminals, how that looks. An M, maybe an I, and a V for the diagonals. So a handful of characters, sets a tone for my
So
concept.
that's at the stage where you kind of like sort out the look and feel of the client, and then
Exactly.
progress.
And then you move on. Once you have that, you move on, refine it. And obviously, as it progresses, the client has less and less input because there's no need for it. We do it right.
Why should we not? Why should we put aside Helvetica? You said it twice again. I've heard it from many type designers as well. Even they said, just get rid of it.
It's, for one, it's overused, I think. Everyone uses Helvetica. The reason it's used because since day one, it's been part of the Macintosh operating system. And it's basically the lazy designer's option for having a so-called modern, clean typeface. But when you look at the Helvetica font, and I don't know whether you guys have seen the movie, the Helvetica movie, Massimo Vignelli goes on about and says, this is clean, modernistic font. Start examining the font. It is anything but modernistic. Helvetica, it's based on Accidents Grotesque. Accidents Grotesque was designed in 1899 by the Berthold family. That's Victorian, as far as I'm concerned. So Helvetica is anything but modernistic. It's actually very antique. And have a look at the A, for example. The feature of having the little tail coming off the stroke. That is an antique feature. And then the execution, the drawing. I have a big problem with the execution of the font. It is just so horrendous, just ugly as sin. That A for me shows everything that is wrong with Helvetica. It's like you have the A, the curve coming in, and then it goes into the middle bar, and it's all kind of round and curvy, and it's just a
So they tried to make it right by having Helvetica new then?
Yeah, well, Helvetica New is basically it's the same thing as before, but they tightened it up a little bit. You know, they got rid of a lot of the drawing inconsistencies and inaccuracies. You know. From a drawing point of view, yes, it is improved, but as an expression of a typeface, it's still the same old rubbish. You know. If you want to have a modernistic typeface, you know, use Universe. Now that is ultra modern. You know. But the problem is Helvetica also in the 1950s. Universe was released. 1956 by Debony and Penniot. Debony and Penniot was a small foundry in Paris. 1957, the Haasche Schriftgießerei, which was already part of the Linotype conglomerate at the time, came out with Helvetica. And of course, they had the might of Linotype marketing machine. Instantly, they went out, Linotype, into the New York advertising scene and said, hey guys, modern typeface, you know. And then everyone went for it, even though Universe